This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. In the last few session, our discussion was going around Spring JDBC. And make sure that here I am writing Spring JDBC. I'm not writing Spring Boot JDBC. Shankar, come. I'm not writing Spring Boot JDBC. Shankar, come here. Right? I'm saying Spring JDBC. I'm not saying Spring Boot JDBC. Means till now, whatever we have seen, like for connecting it with database, we need data source. Then we have to give that connection to for connects we need data source. Is it right? We have the and perform the CRUD operation. In that, we will use two methods given by JDBC template. JDBC template. That is, one is update and another one is query. And we have seen this entire scenario in normal Spring, or you can say Spring core container or Spring core. How we are going to do these things in Spring Boot? Now our discussion will go around that how we are going to do these things in Spring Boot, right? So let's understand how we are going to do Spring Boot JDBC. In the last session, I gave a question from Java X to Jakarta X. What is the reason that some of Java's package are now available inside Jakarta, not Java X? Why? I know you forgot. So search it today. Country in Indonesia. Then what is Indonesia? You said Jakarta is a country name in Indonesia, right? Then what is Indonesia? Country, country. Half knowledge. Nested country. Spring Boot JDBC. So there is a difference between Spring JDBC start. Here we will start. Spring Boot JDBC is built. So it internally Spring JDBC will work. So Spring Boot JDBC is built over the Spring JDBC, in which we will have the concept of data source, and data source is a class. We will have the concept of JDBC template, and this JDBC template is also a class, and row mapper, and this row mapper is a interface. So in Spring Boot, so in Spring Boot JDBC also we will have all these things, as Spring Boot automates the things, so it will have a very less steps in comparison to Spring JDBC. So this is the case that we are writing about Spring Boot JDBC. Okay, so all the things will be there to perform the CRUD operation. It is just some of the configuration difference. Now let's understand how we will create, or how to create now we are going to create a Spring Boot JDBC project. So at first, for creating a Spring Boot project, there are three resources or three approaches are available. Three approaches are available. So in the very first Spring Boot project, you can use any one out of three approaches available. You can use any approach, that doesn't matter. So let's open Eclipse and I will use the plugin. And here nothing is new. We will do all the same things like we did in the Spring JDBC. So till then, at first we'll create a Spring Boot project. After creating the Spring Boot project, in your database, create a new database as Spring Boot JDBC and create an employee table. We are going to replicate the same thing. We are not creating a mini project here. We'll just show you how it works. And create an employee table. So you can just write create database Spring Boot JDBC. These are the queries that most will work. This is for MySQL. As in Oracle, you have central database. Just make sure that whenever you are installing MySQL, you are installing the right product, because there are a lot of other softwares available in which you can waste your 2-3 hours and without any reason. So you can prefer to watch a video of it, or you can read the documentation that which exactly you have to install. Don't just write download MySQL and download whatever is coming, right? Don't do this kind of thing. So whenever you are writing this download MySQL, You will come to this website. And when you are coming to this website, lot of options are available to you. So you can go anywhere in this particular part. But let me tell you, if you are trying the installation of MySQL, so go to this particular part, MySQL community GPL downloads. After going to this, you will see these kind of the things: MySQL, Yum repository, APT repository, Workbench, and all those. So nothing, just MySQL installer for Windows. Here you can select your version like 8.0.42 Windows, and then just download this one, MSI installer, complete installer. That's it. So create database Spring Boot JDBC. After that, you have to write use Spring Boot JDBC, means for using the database. After that, you have to create the table. So create table employee, and you can give ID as int. In case of Oracle, you can write number, name as varchar 20, salary as int. So like this you can do. So let's first create a Spring Boot project. So Eclipse is loaded here. This is the previous project, so we will close. I will follow the approach of Spring Starter project that I have been installed as a plugin. So this is the part that I am getting here. The name of project I will write as Spring Boot JDBC. Spring Boot JDBC, and rest all the things are same. Just next. Now whenever you are adding the APIs, or you can say adding the dependencies, so I will mention here, create the project by adding dependencies. Last time when we were doing with Spring Core, how many dependencies we were adding there? When we were doing the JDBC project using Spring, so how many we were adding? Spring Core, Spring Context, Spring JDBC, and MySQL connector J. In case of Oracle, you were using OJDBC. These were the four dependencies. Now, as we are inside the Spring Boot, and Spring Boot has starters. What are starters in Spring Boot? They are dependency descriptor. They are dependency descriptor. So whenever you are adding a starter, it will install Spring Core, Spring Context, like that. But these two are separate. Whenever you are creating a Spring Boot project, Spring Core and Spring Context you will get by default. But this Spring JDBC and MySQL connector, these two you have to install. So here only I am getting starter project dependency. So here I will search for JDBC API, and you can see that I am getting JDBC API, right? I'm getting a JDBC API, and I need MySQL driver also. So MySQL driver, I'll select and just finish. So the same thing we will mention here, that create the project by adding the dependency of JDBC API and MySQL driver, as these are the requirements. In the second step, We'll go to MySQL and perform these operations. Same thing you can repeat with the Oracle also. So at first I will say create database Spring Boot JDBC. Use Spring Boot JDBC. Now inside this database, I will create the table, that is create table employee. ID is int, name is varchar 20 and salary will be int again. So here our table is created. You can check the description of this table. And here is our table is coming now. Sorted. Let's come to your application, and this is our application Spring Boot JDBC. Now there is one thing to make sure that I have not added the dependency of Spring Web here, right? So what will be our starter this time? So just scroll down. We will open pom.xml file. And here if you see carefully, our starter is JDBC start. JDBC starter means whenever we are starting our application, JDBC is the parent starter. And then we got MySQL connector J. Why we got MySQL connector J? Because we added MySQL driver. And how we got this starter as JDBC? Because we have added JDBC API. Now, if I am going to Maven dependency of my project, you will see these are the jar files. These are the jar files. Spring Bean, Spring AOP, Spring Boot Starter JDBC, Spring Core, Spring Context, like almost all the jar files that are required, right? Even MySQL connector will be somewhere here. So all the jar files we are getting, and this is the power of this JDBC starter and this starter test, that they are taking lot of dependencies with them. Now again, we are going to build a simple project to do some of the CRUD operations. So anyways, let's start. If you remember from Spring JDBC, what was the step one? Step one, we created a Java config class, and in which we created the bean of data source, driver, manager, data source, DMDS, in which we provided driver class name, URL, username, and password. So technically the step one is we have to provide the connection with database using data source, right? This is the first step. Whenever you are creating a JDBC project, creating connection with database is the first very step. But as of now, we are not working with core Spring. We are working with Spring Boot. And Spring Boot does not have any external file as Java config where we can create the bean of data source, right? There is no such file is available. then where we will provide the connection and other things. That is also a case that where we will provide the connection. So for that, the important part is, but Spring Boot has one file available in SRC main resources. There is one file available and the file name is application properties. This one. SRC main resources. Here we have application.properties file. Now, if you remember the folder structure of Spring Boot, I have said the meaning of this particular file. Spring Boot folder structure. So this was the folder structure of Spring Boot that we discussed in class. In that particular file, this was the structure of this Spring Boot app. In that, if you understood what is the role of application.properties, this particular file is the configuration file. This file will be used to configure ports, database connection, and other related thing. It means that this app already, this file or this picture I have already shared with you on 40th April. You can check in classroom as well. So application.properties, what is the use of this file? So we'll start writing. This file is used to configure the data source properties. What it will do? In this file, we will write whatever we were writing as a bin there. So for obtaining a connection with database, in application.properties, we will write. So in this particular file, we will write our things. So how we will write? Spring dot data source dot driver hyphen class hyphen name, something like this. So let's go back to this to this particular. So I will say Spring dot data source dot driver hyphen class hyphen name equals to which database I am using. MySQL. J.jdbc.driver. It's in the case of MySQL. com.mysql.jdbc.cj. Second, this is the first thing that I will write. And after driver class name, what we are writing? Connection URL. Second, after same way, spring dot data source dot URL. So here we So here we will say spring dot URL of MySQL comes something like this: JDBC colon MySQL colon double forward slash localhost colon 3306 slash Spring Boot JDBC means database name. Spring Boot JDBC. This is the database name that I am having in my local server of MySQL. So we'll keep the same thing here as well. Yes, this URL will be same for you also if you are using MySQL except this database name. If your database name is also Spring Boot JDBC, then this will be same for you, right? Only the database name will be different for you. After providing the driver class name and the URL, the next thing that we will provide is username. So Spring dot data source will be different for you. Spring dot data equals to root. Same way, Spring dot data source dot password equals to root. So these are the two properties that we will write there. Okay. These are the two properties that we will write more. And that is how our data source is configured here. That is how configured here. Our data source is configured. And this source has configured. How can we check that this particular part is fine? Problem in this part. So you can try, just save this file. You can try to run your main class. This one. This is your main class, which is having the Spring application dot run method. Try to run this class as Spring Boot app. Just click OK. And Spring logo is coming. And after that, no error is coming. Now, is it a indication that our project is fine? Yes. This is the indication that our project is fine. Let's say I will write some wrong password, some wrong username, or any one thing you can make wrong. What if I'm trying to start my application in that case? Now my application is starting again, right? There is no particular problem. With wrong username and wrong password, how this connection is going on and how this application is fine. What if we are not having anything? Now we will start our application. Means in application.properties, we don't have any database configuration. And now our application is hitting error. When we are reading this error, so this error is saying that failed to configure a data source. URL attribute is not specified and no embedded data source. Means for running actually, it requires only two things. For running the application, it requires only these two things: the driver class name and the URL. URL will have the address of your database. Now Spring Boot app will go to my MySQL and ask, do you have any database as Spring Boot JDBC? It will reply, yes, I have this database. But for doing operation, it requires username and password, right? That's why we are actually getting no error by keeping wrong username and password. These two links are fine. This error we will get when we are trying to perform any operation with the wrong username and password. Anyways, why our application is giving error when we are not providing these two things? Because in pom.xml, there is a starter. Who will start this application? Spring Boot Starter JDBC. This particular starter will start this application. And there is a specialty of JDBC until it is getting the connection with database. It will not start the application. So what does it mean? It means that if we are not providing exact thing, or let's say we are providing some wrong information, in that case application will refuse to start. Here I am providing one wrong information. Here I am providing one wrong information about my local host and it is working fine. So who is available on 3406? Nothing is available. Let's say driver class name I will write as Shivam and URL I will write as my own database. Something like this I am writing. Completely wrong information that there is no driver class name as Shivam and there is no URL as my own database. Let's try to run. Now here we are getting some of the errors and errors are saying that error creating bean with name data source defined in class path resource. And the reason for this error is reason cannot load driver class Shivam, that I cannot load this particular driver class. So let's do one thing. Only the driver class is exactly correct. Here I am writing Shivam. URL is Shivam. Just driver class name only I am writing exactly. And we will start our application. And here our application started without any problem. What if there is these three properties are not available? Or let's say we already know that there is no problem with these two properties. Will there any problem if I'm removing this URL? Only driver class name is there. What will be the problem? URL is not specified. But whatever URL I am writing is the wrong URL, right? Yes. So for starting the application, it is mandatory to provide driver class name and URL, out of which your driver class name should be correct. URL can be anything in starting. But at last, whenever you want to do operation, you have to provide actual things. So anyways, our Spring data source is done. Means now my project will have a connection with this database. I will show you the employee management system project. And in that I will show you the container. So last time we did the creation of data source being something like this. Almost same thing. Set driver class name, set URL, set username, set password. And now we are doing in the application.properties. But after that, to the JDBC template, we are giving the data source that JDBC template dot set data source DMDS, right? After creating the connection, we have so we make the same thing here, that step 2. After creating the bean of data source, or you can say after configuring the data source, we need to give the data source to JDBC template. But again, the same question, but in Spring Boot, but in Spring Boot. So how? So the answer for this particular thing is Spring Boot automatically Spring Boot automatically configures the data source connection to JDBC template. Means Spring Boot will not ask you to do that jt.set data source. No. Whatever data source you are writing in application.properties, automatically Spring Boot will give these connection to JDBC template. Internally it is written. So you don't have to do it, right? That part is also not available. Here it is that much simple. That part is also not available. So step 2 becomes null here. That we are not creating object of JDBC template and then setting the data source to it. Not like that. We are just simply giving the data source in application.properties file. After that, Spring will automatically allot. So that's it. Now, third step is start writing queries. So let's see how we will write queries. So the very first step is, I will say here, using the base package, I will create, actually my base package is coming as com.bank because of the last project. So I will just rename this from com.bank to com.spring, like this. So in the third step, what I will do, using the base package, I will create one package as entity or model. And this is how it will look. In this, I will create one employee class. In this, I will create one employee class, right? Employee class. I want Spring Boot to manage the object of this employee class. Which annotation I can keep here? I want Spring Boot to manage the object of this employee class. Which annotation I can write here? Actually, there is configure at the rate of Spring application. There is no such annotation. Here we can write at the rate of component, or else we can write at the rate of service, repository, controller, or REST controller. Stereotype annotation. As this is not service, this is not repository, just a component. So public class employee. Now, how our table is created? So our table is created in such a way that it has ID int, name string, salary int. So let's create these fields. So private int ID, private string name, private int salary. You can write there getter setters or you can generate. I will suggest you to write them, not generate. So this is the student class. Generally, there is a concept that will come later, but now for a moment, I'm saying that whenever you have a Java application and your Java application is communicating with database, roughly I'm saying this, whenever your Java application is communicating with database, it requires something in between. Generally, that particular layer is called DAO. What it is called? DAO. DAO means data access object. It's a complete topic in next unit, but as of now, understand it. Data access object. We can work without this also, but you should have a practice of working with DAO. It's nothing, just a layer. So now what I will do, I will create one more package using my base package and I will name it as DAO. Now this is a particular package which will be used to perform operations, which will be used to perform operation. So that's it. Inside this, I will create a class. We are going to perform operation on employee. So I will create employee DAO. That this particular class will be working as the DAO of employee. Which annotation I can keep here? Actually, any one I can keep, but which is suitable here? So this particular employee DAO will directly communicate with database. So which one is good here? At the rate of repository. Very good. So here we will keep at the rate of repository. Now employee DAO. Inside this, I will create one particular method, that is public void insert employee or insert EMP. Shrikar, why don't we create main method in all the classes? Huh? Ask to Shankar. Why? Shankar is your PA? Huh? Is he your assistant? Or you are his assistant? I'm asking to you, man. So here I have created a insert EMP method. Now this employee DAO class will be used to perform operation with database. It should have JDBC template. Now JDBC template is not defined anywhere, but Spring Boot is configuring that. So directly I can make that auto wired. So here I will say private JDBC template, right? Here I have auto wired the, where is this defined? Nowhere. In application.properties, we have just defined the data source. Spring Boot is automatically creating the JDBC template and giving the data source to it. Now, how the insert employee will run? So there will be a query. So here I will create a query here. That query will look something like this. Insert into employee values. Employee ID we are taking as first, so that is 101. Name we are taking as, okay, so double quote is the string, so here you can write in single quote Shankar, and after that salary we are writing. So this is our query now. Already value I have provided. I'm not doing anything actually. After that, we will just say template dot update. Template dot update, and we will give the query like this: template dot update and query. That's it. Let's try to run the main class. And here our application is running fine. Values went to database. Answer is no. If we are checking the employee table, so select asterisk from employee. Are we getting the values here? So answer is no. Obviously we will not get. The reason is the operation is written inside the insert emp method of this employee DO class, and Spring Boot application can't run any class like that. We have to create object. Now this employee DO is a repository, right? It is a repository. So at first, if you remember, Spring application dot run, it returns the container. Remember or not? This particular run method returns the application context container. So I can say application context container equals to spring application dot run spring boot application dot class UGS, like that. Now container is created here. I want the object of employee DAO class. So I will say employee DAO EDAO equals to container dot get bean of what class? Employee DAO dot class. And this EDAO is having one method as insert EMP, which is already running one query. EDAO dot insert EMP. For the success message, as we know, template dot update returns what kind of value? Int, 0 or 1. In case of true or in case of success, it returns 1. So here we will say int num equals to template dot update query. And after that we will check if num is equals to 1. In that case, we will print operation successful. Or you can say employee data added successfully. Else operation terminated. Now in main class, we will call this insert emp method. Just run it. And here we got lot of errors. Now we will just read the error for once. Just understand. Failed to obtain JDBC connection. This time we are getting failed to get JDBC connection. Means we are not even getting connection. So let's understand. So it is saying the driver has not received any packets from server. So like that we are getting communication link failure, this, that. Again, we will open application dot properties. Are we having error in any of these things? So let's check our database. Our database name is Spring Boot JDBC. Check here. Spring Boot JDBC. All right. Everything is all correct. But the local host is 3406. So local host should be 3306. Right? Local host should be 3306. Again, we will start the application. And this time you will be seeing one message in between: employee data added successfully. Shall we check the database then? And this time we are getting the value in our database. Means the employee has been added to database. In the same way, actually it's quite easy, right? We are just defining data source in application.properties. After that, all the things are configured by Spring Boot, JDBC template, this, that, all the things. Now, in employee DAO, this is the method for inserting an employee. So this time what I will do, I will write prepared statements here. Means will not give the values. So three values are there. We will keep three question marks there. And when we are checking template dot update, means whenever we are calling this update method of template, this query will ask three values now. So I will give the values as 102. Name is Abdul. After that, salary we are giving. So like that salary we will give. So same way, again we will start our application. See, it's not web app. We have not added the dependency of web app. So it's not running Tomcat. So application is already stopped. You have to restart it. It will do only one operation. So again, employee data added successfully. We will check it within Spring Boot database, and here we are getting the data exactly that we are giving. So this is called insert operation. This is called insert operation. Now let's go back, and in employee DAO, I will create a method. In that particular method, that is public void update emp. Public void update emp. So let's start. This method should have a query as first. String query equals to, query will be like this: update employee set. Let's say we are trying to update salary. So update employee set salary equals to something where id equals to something. I'm creating a dynamic value query. Same way again, template dot update method, and we will give the query. I am saying that there are two employees. I want to update the salary of Shankar with ID 101. I want to update the salary to 15,000, 5,000 reduction, because every time he is using mobile in class. So update employees set salary equals to 15,000. This is the first value in place of this question mark where ID is equals to 101. As we know, the update method returns int value. So again, I will check int num equals to like this, and if else will be same like previous method. So again, I am checking if number is coming as 1, employee data updated successfully or operation terminated. In main class, this time I am not saying insert employee. This time I will say EDAO dot update employee. I am trying to update the employee. So again, we'll start the application and employee data updated successfully. So 5,000 reduction is done, right? Employee is updated. Even you can update the ID also because ID is not primary key here, or it's not a primary key. So you can update ID also. Same way, you just have to change the query. Already in depth, we have done all the operation in employee management system. This is just a simple project to show all the operation in Spring Boot using JDBC. So we are able to update the employee also. Now we will try to delete the employee. Public void delete emp. So again, you should have a query there, string query equals to delete from employee where ID equals to something. So even after giving warnings, Shankar is not listening to us. So it's time for the termination, right? So what we are saying, template dot update. Already you know, for creating the employee means inserting the data, updating the data or deleting the data actually requires only one method, that is update method. A query already we are having 101. Okay. So that's it. Now in main class, we will call the delete employee method this time. So EDAO dot delete employee, and we will hit the query. So you can attach the same thing again, that int num equals to template dot update. Num, you can write if num is equals to 1. In that case, you can print employee deleted successfully, or else operation terminated. So employee deleted successfully. We will check our database table, and here trimmed. Now we have performed these operations, like we are able to create the data, we are able to update the data, we are able to delete the data. Somewhere in between, there is one more thing, reading the data, that is still left. So in this particular Spring Boot project, we have seen the use of data source, and that we are writing in application.properties file. We have seen the use of JDBC template. And who is doing this? automatically configured by Spring Boot. Sir, please use connection pool for DB connection, and what is Hikari CP, Bone CP, and can we use named parameter JDBC template? So I think I am myself saying that you can use named parameters as well in JDBC template. And what is Hikari CP, Bone CP, all we will discuss. These all are data source, right? Whenever we are adding this, you will see a jar file of their name. So let me show you. So here, this is the jar file for Hikari CP. All these we will discuss. Just hold on a bit. So here employee is deleted successfully. Now the last part is left. This time we will try to read the employee, or we will try to fetch the data from database. Now again the concept of row mapper will arrive here. So public void fetch emp. Public void fetch emp. See, directly I can write a query that string query is equals to select asterisk from emp, or employee is the exact table name. Select asterisk from employee, and I can call template dot query. At first I will give the query to it. The second thing that it requires is a implementation of row mapper. So again the same thing is available here. So what I will do, in the same package, that is your DAO package, I will create a class. So here we will create a class. So what we will do, we will just create a class here, and that class should be implementing the row mapper interface. So Spring Boot JDBC, in the DAO package only, I will create that class. The class as employee mapper. Now, again, you will have a revision of row mapper. So this will have you will have a revision of row mapper. So this employee mapper should be managed by Spring Boot, but employee mapper class should implements, right? And if you remember, this row mapper works on the type, and this what type of value you are trying to fetch from database. So we are trying to fetch employee. So here I can write employee because I am having one same class which is having one same looking like my table. So here I will use Java that implementing any interface. This row mapper is a interface. What kind of interface? Functional interface. What is this row mapper? So row mapper is the functional interface. And what does it mean? That it will have exactly and exactly one should have to compulsory. It should have this interface, that is map row interface. That is map row interface. Now it's very simple. Whenever you are having map row, it will run on the employee table. This table, take one row and convert this row into Java object. That is what row mapper. So row mapper is a functional interface which is used to map database rows into Java object. It means that in the result set RS, we have all the employees. We just need to use them. So you can do one thing. Employee class is already a component, means Spring is managing its object, and this employee manager is also a repository, means it's also a bin. So we can auto wire the employee here, private employee, and that is auto wired. If you don't want to follow this particular thing, there is another option available. You can create employee object like the new operator. But we are working with Spring Boot. Why we should do this? So I have auto wired the employee, means already created the object of employee. Now here we will get one employee E. So I will say E dot set ID, E dot set ID, E dot set name, E dot set salary, and at last return E. So this method will return employee. But from where it will get ID, name, and salary? So result set is there for you, RS. All the values are available in RS. So I will say RS dot get int. Get int of which column? ID column. From where set name will come? Set name will come from rs dot get string of what is the column name? Name is the column name. Here rs dot get int again, and column name is salary. Column name is salary. Now it will take one row from the table and create a object of employee and return it. Now in employee DAO, we have to give the reference of employee mapper here. So I will simply say new employee mapper. That's it. Now again this template dot query will return a int. No, this is a select command. So it will return a list of employees. So what we will do, we will just create a list of employee here, list of employee emp, and from which package we have to import list? java.util, like this. Now all the employees are available inside this emp list. You can run a for each loop here, you can run a for loop here, or you can create a toString method and you can run that. There are a lot of ways. So employee E in emp list, and what you will print here, we will print E dot get ID plus some space, then E dot get name plus with some space, E dot get salary, and like this we will do. Now we are not deleting any employee. EDAO dot fetch employee. Now we are fetching the employee. No qualifying bean of employee DAO. Okay, so problem in this project now. The problem is our base package changed. This from com.bank means your main class came inside com.bank again. And our base package is com.spring. Maybe like how it happened. Anyways, we will change our package from com.bank to com.spring. Now base package is same. We will run our application again. Set id int. Okay, so we are getting some issue. Let's check. com.spring.entity.employee.set id because this dot e is null. Private int id set id. Select asterisk from employee. Okay, so here we are getting values 102 Abdul and 30,000. The problem was not in our code. The problem was something related to bean scope. The problem was related to bean scope. What is the by default scope? By default scope is bean. By default bean scope is bean. Primary. What happened to you today, man? Arey, you remember something these things? Singleton, prototype. What is the default? What is singleton? It is default bean scope. No, then default protocol. For what? There should be a protocol on your answers. It is asking in. I made the screening test. So I will ask, right? But I am asking, what is the meaning of singleton? Meaning of this. What will happen if the default bean scope is singleton? It means that only one object is created that is shared within the all object. But prototype means And last time, let me show you the problem also. We should understand the code. When we are writing this particular thing, employee equals to new employee. Every time this new employee means a new object it will create. But what we did, let's hold this for a minute. Last time I have auto wired. So I said private employee auto wired. Now, employee class is having a component annotation. That's it. No scope, nothing. Only one object will be created for this employee, and result set will try to create multiple. So for that, let's try to insert one more value. So what I will do, let's comment out this part and one employee I will insert. For that, insert into employee. So we are inserting one more employee. We'll just run the same method. Employee data added successfully, and here we got data as well. Now again we will try to fetch the employee. So let's understand. Employee mapper is having a wired connection with employee, means Spring is creating container. New employee is not working. Now if I'm trying to fetch the employee this time, so again same thing, cannot invoke set id because this dot e is null. Now employee class, let's try to give it a scope. So I will say at the rate of scope, and in bracket I will write prototype. That the scope of this employee class is prototype, means create as many project you are creating. Let's understand how we will do it. So when I'm running the code again to fetch the employee, application started and we got the different error, not exactly that error, because here you check the reason, it's shutting down. And we'll just go back here. This dot e is null. And check the error where we are getting the error in employee mapper class, 22nd line. This one. When we are trying to set the ID. When I'm trying to set the ID, then we are getting the error. Can you see what is the error here? The employee object is created outside. Should I make it static? Will there be any difference if I am making this employee object as static? Here the concept of binding is used. What is binding in Java? What is binding in Java? Combination. Combining what? Binding. Static binding, early binding, compile time binding, runtime binding, polymorphism. No, it has nothing to do with polymorphism. So when I made this static, I am asking, will there be any change? It's related to binding. When I made this static again, but different kind of error, means something is problem with that particular thing only. Now we got the different error. Cannot invoke com.spring.employee.setId int because employee mapper.e is null. It is saying that whatever employee you are having inside employee mapper is null and we can't set the ID to it. Let's comment out this and we will create object inside the method itself that employee equals to new employee. Or else let me make sure that you are not having that doubt. What if this method is trying to auto wire something? So here we will say auto wired private, or you can make public and all employee E. So here within method you cannot auto wire. Auto wired is only allowed on the class levels, not in the methods. Now when we are creating the object within the method, not outside the method of this employee, it will work fine. Now we will get both the employees. 102 Abdul 30,000, 101 Shankar 30,000. We are getting, it means there is a problem, there is not working and there is a problem in this. Now related to this particular topic of core Java, it's in core Java binding where we have two type of binding. First type of binding is called early binding, or you can say to that eager binding, static binding, and compile time binding. These are the name to this. Second type of binding that we have is lazy binding, dynamic binding, or runtime binding. Now, if you don't know these things, I can explain. You know or not? There is a class of teacher. There is a class of teacher, and this teacher is having one public void class, public void Java method, public, public void public Java method, Java. In that we will learn Java, right? And there is a class of student which is extending teacher. Inheritance is going on here. They are also having the same method, public void Java. First thing, what is this situation called? What is this situation called? Method overriding. And students are printing today we will learn Spring. Today we will learn Spring. Now the question is JVM, or let's say your compiler. I'm making it very simple. Compiler will check that there are two Java method. Writing override is compulsory or not, Shrikar? Then why we write override? For compiler will not get informed without writing. Just now you said it's not compulsory. What is the use of writing at the rate of override? If it is not compulsory to override, user understanding. No, it's not for user understanding. Anyways, my discussion is not on that. Compiler will say there are two Java methods. In the particular class file, there are two Java method. Now, if I am running directly, Let's say here I am writing one code. So I will say is teacher T equals to new student. Teacher T equals to new student, and then I will say T dot Java. What will be the output of this program? First of all, can I create object like this? Teacher T equals to new student? Yes, sir. What will be the output of this program? Today we will learn Java or today we will learn Spring? Today we will learn Spring. Don't know, sir. In this case, what will be the answer? Will be the answer? Today we will learn Java or today we will learn Spring? Here both are wrong answer. It's a error in program. And this error is related to binding only. I have 2-3 days back, I static method can't be overridden, sir. And sir, what is the reason, sir? Why static method can't be overridden? What is the reason? That reason is binding only. So there are two type of binding. Let me make these things clear. So first is static, that will done on the compile time only. That will done on the compile time, means while writing the program. If your method is written with static, private or final, if these are the three keywords in your method, compiler already knows what I have to run the method of parent. I have to run the method of parent, because if a parent method is static, you cannot change it. If the parent's method is private, how you can change it? It's already private. If the decision of parent is final, you can't change it also, right? So in these three cases, compiler know already that I have to run the method of parent. Doesn't matter what you are doing. You can do like this, parent p equals to new child. You can do, but there is no benefit of this. There is no benefit of this, as the method is static, private or final. Already knows, that is called static binding, compile time binding or early binding. Compiler knows already that yes, which method I have to run. In the second case, that is called your dynamic binding. These three keywords are not there. Method can be overridden. Now compiler don't know that which method I have to call. If object is created like this, parent p equals to new parent, in that case, it will call the method of parent. And if object is created like this, method p1 equals to new child, in that case, it will call the method of child, right? Method of child, that is binding. Now let's come down to our application. What is happening when I'm creating a new object every time? It's working fine. But when we are auto wiring the employee, when we are auto wiring the employee, what is the problem in that? Static binding. There is simply a private employee. See, understand the code. So we will run our code. And here something like this we are getting that cannot invoke set ID of employee class because this dot E is null. This dot E is null. Now let's do one thing. Here try to create the object of employee class like this. Okay. Employee equals to new employee outside of method. Don't use the springs object that is auto wired. And here we got both the values as same. Is our data like this? No. Which value we are getting? Lastly written value. Which value we are getting? Lastly written value. It means that whatever object we are creating outside is getting used only one time. Understood or not? Whatever object you are creating outside is getting used only one time. One time means only one employee is available. That to auto wired means only a single connection is available. So whenever your object is outside of method, only one employee is treated. In that case, you can't write the values. So method should create the employee. And inside this, we can't override, means we can't auto wire the thing. So let's follow the same procedure. So that's how we perform CRUD operation using Spring Boot. I think it's simple. Now here we are getting different values because on every run, it will create a different employee object. So that's it. That's how we perform CRUD operation using Spring Boot. How the steps are, we just have to write data source in application.properties. Rest everything is automatic here. Rest everything is automatic. I'll give you the zip file of this code. How we will start the tomorrow session. So in tomorrow we are going to discuss about Spring Boot runners. So there are two type of runners, command line runner and one is application runner. It's a small topic, not that much big, but important one. After that, we are going to discuss about JPA and ORM, right? After discussing runners, we will discuss about JPA and ORM. Again, why Java X changed to Jakarta? Check it. Okay. Tomorrow again I will ask. Any doubt in this particular CRUD operation using Spring Boot? You will always find Spring Boot easy than Spring. Always. If you have any questions, please go ahead. Sorry? CRUD operation? You're asking we are performing CRUD operation with Spring or Spring